Hello. Yeah. I will be starting a new game though. I've played this game a lot. But I think new game is the right decision. There are things, but there we go. So for those of you just coming in, we have a couple minutes technically before stream starts, but if somebody can let me know if the sound is okay. Can you hear me all right over the music? Good, good, thank you. So I can turn it down a little bit. Just give me 1 second. There we go. I'm pulling up my notes. So the video will disappear briefly when I do this. All right, how about now? Is the music better? Okay. You know what? Give me just a second. We have a second. Class hasn't really started. Let me check this whole timestamp on the phone thing. Because this has been an issue before. And what happens is people tell me about this issue during class, and then I get into lecture, and then forget after lecture. That was the wrong link. Honestly, I'm just going to Reddit because usually Reddit is where you find the good answers. Oh. So I have an idea. You should not have a black screen. If you have a black screen, try reloading the page. What? Oh my gosh. Of course. Okay, so I can't deal with this right now because the Twitch app on my mobile phone decided it needed to update, which makes sense because I don't generally use it. I think while you're chatting, you have, is the time shown anywhere? Because I know that like on my screen, for example, I'm looking at the PC version. It shows how far I am into the video, which would be the other way we could verify. That's the only thing I can think of. For the moment, if you're on mobile, do what you gotta do. Yeah, hour and minute's fine. You don't need seconds. And I will try to work out something with this whole mobile issue. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. So, all right, let's get started. I do see the stream closed caption or reminder. My microphone broke. So, I don't know what to do about that right now. I'm having a lot of technical difficulties at the moment. So the microphone that I'm streaming from goes through the PS4. That's why this looks a little bit different. But the closed captioning goes through my PC, which I'm not on my normal PC. I'm on my laptop because normal PC is upstairs. Long story short, closed captions is not going to work. Also, I don't know if anyone took this class because they had a friend who took it before. Yes, this is the channel for the lecture 277. This is not the game I usually use for the Identity Week. I usually use Gone Home, which if anyone knows it, it's a great game. You should go check it out. The reason I am not doing it is because the first-person perspective on that game makes me very nauseous. Now, usually I would just do it anyways for lecture because I think that game is literally that good. But I have another meeting after class and I can't be puking during it. So here we are. We're gonna play Sims 4, which I think is a fine choice. I see a lot of hype for Sims in the chat, so hopefully this will be good. Is there anybody not familiar with Sims? So you don't necessarily have to have played Sims 4 in particular, but this franchise is old. I don't even know how old. I don't know if I remember a time before The Sims. The game I normally play, Zeb, is called Gone Home. G-O-N-E, Gone Home. Twix, you have no idea about this. So this is basically like a life simulation game. So I am going to start a new game. So this is going to be a good intro for anyone who's not familiar with Sims. I might skip the tutorial though, just because you can follow along without knowing, you know, the controls, and I don't need the controls. But yeah, today we are talking about identity. This is the second and last article by G that you will have to read. And he touches on this on the article we read last week. But this is obviously a much more in-depth version. So I'm not going to resume. Like I said, I do want to start a new game for you. I have played the living shit out of this game. I have a couple expansion packs. Yeah, I even have a like a family game going where I'm on like the 4th or 5th generation or something like this. So fun fact, I played Sims 3 while living abroad in Chinese, and the computer I had a small screen, and so all of the characters, but I mean like the language characters, not the characters you play, were so small I couldn't read them. And so I basically played Sims 3 by feel because I couldn't read anything. Okay, so so G talks about 3 different identities, but before we get there, one of the reasons that I am starting from, or why I'm starting a new game. Oh, Give me 1 second. I need to get my notebook propped up here so I can read it and still have hands to play. Is because creating a character is literally creating a backstory. So I'm going to say, okay, and we're going to go through these questions. I'm going to start with young adult. How close to the water do I want to be? I'd have gills if I could. That sounds fun. Animals are a stellar companion. Cross stitch can be used for... Also, if anyone has any thoughts on what I should pick, feel free to mention that in chat. Because what I'm doing here is I'm creating an identity for this person, right? This person who has yet to be named. What is cross stitch? Okie dokie. At social events, I am the life of the party. See, if this was like real me, it would be none of those three. Picking fights? No! Oh my god, fine. Picking fights. Ooh, could one of the... Oh, actually, maybe I can do it. Yeah, could one of my mods jump in here and give me a hand? I am the peril. You guys are evil. The best music comes from video. We have to say comes from video games, right? Like this is a video game class. You guys are making a menace of the character. My family wants me to respect tradition. What does that mean to me? Oh, traditions aren't for me. I feel like if you're going to be a menace, you can't also then be into tradition. Video game music is underrated. I agree. What do I do for fun? Ignore everything. Creative side, okie dokie. I see trash all over the beach. So some of these questions, by the way, are because of the expansion packs I have. All right, I mean, I'm taking some of your advices. Oh, please don't tell me I'm crashing. Okay, thank you. Thank you. What did we do? We made a mermaid. Early question for the chat. How does the interactive storytelling and customization features in Sims empower players to construct, negotiate, and experiment in various facets of it, including gender sexuality within the virtual sandbox? Wow. What a question. Boozing and cruising. If someone wants to jump in there, feel free. So look, our career is going to be criminal. Good job, guys. We're going to have gardening, handiness, and sturdy ones. Oh, so I have never played the criminal career track. And where am I? I don't really care what her voice sounds like. I'm not even trying to do that. I can't hear it because it's too low. There we go. We're just gonna roll with this. Oh, name. I need a name. We're gonna randomize the name. Michaela. Kazaris. Oh, you can change pronouns? I wonder if that's new or if I just never noticed. Oh, Ariel would have been good. Okay, so we just created a backstory for this character. Now, as we are loading, unfortunately, Sims does tend to have long load times. Of the 3 identities that G identifies, which one is this? And explain to me why. So basically, you have 3 choices, right? I'm not going to tell you what they are. You have to figure out which one is correct and then define it and tell me why that is the correct answer. This is for credit. This is your first discussion credit. Since we made a merman, I think we have to, or mermaid, sorry, I did change her gender. We have to go and live on the island. We should also probably choose something close to the water. That seems good. Select an we'll just do furnished. The question is, in the article, G identifies 3 types of identity. We just created this character, Michaela. Which of the 3 identities is she? You have to answer which of them she is and why. So you can't give me just a one-word answer, right? Which of the 3 identities she is would be a one-word answer, and then explain to me why that is the correct answer. Right, so for full credit, you got to tell me which one and why. Okay. Do I have to go to work right away? No. Cool. Where is she going? She is just running off into go swimming. That's fine. I'll let her swim while I check out what's in this sparse house. Look at this. Very sparse house. Oh, look at that. She is actually a mermaid. Give me a minute. I forgot to... I forgot to enable timestamps on my own chat. I wish it just allowed me to keep that on by default. I'm going to give people another minute to put in some answers, in part because I see a lot of right answers, but not all. So for those of you who are new to Sims, just kind of go over this real quick. So there are certain aspirations I have, right? So I have to perform 10 mean or mischievous interactions and be disliked by 2 Sims. This is because of what we created. This is my job. I will have to go to it in 2 days. These are my skills. So I'm working on fitness right now because I'm swimming. I have all these other options. I can add more to this. These are my relationships, which I don't have any because I just started. Inventory is also probably going to be empty. right? Because I haven't done anything. This is my stats. Wait, did you see that? Like, I am good, creative, dastardly, and an animal enthusiastic. Like, I'm good and dastardly. That seems weird. And my needs. So I will have to do things like go to the bathroom, have fun, be social, eat, and stay hydrated. So it looks like I feel like we need to make some trouble. Yeah? See if I can get out of the water. So let's see. It's 2:49 right now. At 2:50, I'm going to cut off this answer. I'll start with a rude introduction because I need 2 Sims to not like me. This is going to be interesting. Okay, so we are at 2:50. Oh, I think I actually need to go home. So it is cut off. So the answer was virtual identity. I created a character. This is a separate identity. I don't identify with this character. I'm controlling her, but she has skills and abilities that I don't have. All right. I mean, I can swim. I wouldn't die in the water, but not like that. I can't swim. And the skills she has will matter within the game world. So it is a virtual identity. Now, a couple of people did actually, I'm going to hang on and go back to that. So the end goal, you have different options for end goals. So for example, right now, my aspirations are my goals are this, and then there are different levels that I can go through to max out my character, and that would be the end goal. But it doesn't really end, because if you reach all of your goals, you can just start a new one. Did she just kick all of those people out? She did. Wow. But then also there's a typical lifespan. So, you know, at a certain point you will die, right? So if you go here, the bar on the top is her lifespan, and when she gets to the end, she'll be in the next phase of life, which will be an adult, and then it'll go again until she becomes elder or older. I'm not sure the word they use. Yes, John. And then when you get to the end of that, you die. If you answered incorrectly, but your answer showed that you had read, but you just misunderstood, it still counts for credit. So what does that mean? If your incorrect answer was something like, there was no identity, that looks like you're not trying. But if your answer was, for example, and I saw more than one person who said that, if your answer was, it was a projective identity, in this case, it is incorrect, but it would still work. Can So the reason it is not a projective identity is because projective identity is seeing the avatar as a part of yourself. Very often this happens when you play a game for a long period of time. Now that's not always true. I'm kind of going with a generality here, but it's often true. I just started. And honestly, with this mischievous character, criminal that we made, I'm not sure that I would ever identify with this character. But who knows? Maybe I would. You never know. And actually I say that because in other games, even when you don't create the character, so in my personal life, I am playing Witcher 3 right now, and there is some projective identity in that. Now, Geralt, who is the character, is not one I made. You have to just use the character they gave you. He's a big, strong dude. He's a dude. In many ways, on the surface, he's nothing like me. Oh my God, all this woman does is swim. Okay, anyways. But in the choices that I make, I'm using my real world morality to make choices within that game and direct the story. All right. I really need to make an enemy here. Okay. So a projective identity doesn't have to mean that you're actually like the character. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. So in this case, this character could become a projective identity as I play, but not right away. He liked that. What is this weirdness? All right, we'll see. So there's not a clear difference between those two things. And in fact, there is and or can be overlap between all three. So before I fully answer the question about the differences, let's talk real quick about the last one, the one we haven't talked about yet, and that is the real world, physical world identity. And that is like, in this case, me, right? Dr. Malone, that is the real world identity. The virtual identity is Michaela. The reason real world identity matters is because I am making choices, and the choices I'm making are in some way or another reflective of my personality. Now, that's not to say if you chose to like be a mean character that you are a mean person. Who knows? Maybe you're just doing it for the lulz. Maybe you're doing it because you want to see how the game mechanics work or try something different. Doesn't matter, right? So I think it's fairly easy to understand what real world identity is, right? The virtual identity is just Michaela and her skills, wants, and desires. She really wants to swim 24/7, apparently. She just insulted and had an embarrassing interaction with that person. She has other skills. Actually, let's just look at her skill tree right here. So she has level 3 in gardening. I could show you one of my plants and it's dying. I keep trying to water it and bring it back, but I guarantee you my gardening level is 1. handiness, mischief, charisma. These are all skills that I may or may not have, but that's irrelevant. She has them. These are a part of her identity, the virtual identity. The projective identity is me projecting myself onto Michaela. Can I interact with the fish? I think I can talk to the dolphins. So when I make choices about how she's going to act or what we're going to do, that's kind of a part of that. The things about her that I may see as similar to me, or as a part of me, would be included in that. Interesting. Yes. So the real world identity is the literal player. The virtual identity is the literal character. And the projective identity is kind of a mental state, right? And think of it this way. Has there ever been anything that you've really seen as a part of yourself? So for me, I would think about my doctoral dissertation, which I spent years working on. I see as a part of myself. Like I gave years of my life to this document. It's kind of like my baby. Sometimes parents project themselves onto their kids. Maybe you have, a pet that you see as taking on some of your personality traits. Does any of that help? I almost think that the Girls of Rivia example might even be a little easier to understand the differences because, like I said, on the surface, Geralt is nothing like me. I am nothing like him. And yet, I make decisions based on my own moral compass and then see myself in his reactions to the world. Yeah, so let's talk about a quote from the article. It's from page 51 or 7 in the Adobe document, if that helps you. It says, a good role-playing video game makes me think new thoughts about what I value. Now, thinking in terms of between Triss and Yennefer. Oh, the heartache. Now, why is this? Why would a good role-playing video game make you think new thoughts about what you value? We could this, and you know, this is a good question. We can call this for credit also. Um, so the question is again, you know, starting with the quote from the article, a good role-playing video game makes me think new thoughts about what I value. This is from page 51. Why is this true? How do RPGs do this? I really want to reach level 3 of the mischief skill, speaking of goals. I feel like pickpocketing someone in a swimsuit is probably not going to work well, but let's see. Let's see what happens. Oh, he caught me, didn't he? Oh, oh. So her tail will come out while she's submerged in enough water. Oh, she is super tired, right? So again, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, this will start going from no color to yellow to red, telling me what I need. So what I'm going to do is put her to bed and then look over some of the answers we got here. So every time I like lean forward and look over, as you can probably see, the PS4 cuts off your answers, and so I'm going back to look in my my PC, my laptop, I mean. So first of all, I'm going to start with there is a lot of really good answers that I'm looking at right now. I want to pull out this one by Rohan. Characters are forced to pick between tough choices at times, and the player is forced to grapple with not only whether or not to make the choice in the game, but whether or not they would be able to make the same choice in real life. It might make you consider what values you would actually act on when the stakes are higher and force some introspection. An example would be what happens at the end of Last of Us. Yeah, so you're gonna see that type of interaction up close and personal later in the semester when I play this war of mine. I'm just going to leave that there because, again, I will play that later in the semester. But yeah, the thing is it's very similar to the idea of walking a mile in another person's shoes, right? Is it exactly the same? No, but you can try different decisions with, few to no, with little to no consequences. And also you can see, ooh, what then, you can see some long-term consequences, right? Which are sometimes hard, right? So if you think about it, as an example, and I try to almost never bring up politics, but let's just do it right now. I know and talk to a lot of people all over the spectrum. Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Green, other, whatever. In all of the interactions I have had, when the person has said they believe in X, or they believe politicians should do this or that, or if they've been in favor of or against a bill, it has always been with good intentions. It's always been, I believe if we did X, fill in the blank law, it is for the best of society. Most people are not evil. Or at least they don't see themselves as evil. Now, that doesn't mean that their good intentions do not make bad for the rest of the world. It doesn't mean they are good decisions. I am reminded frequently by my mother, the road to hell is paved in good intentions. But my point being, a video game can be a place where you can play this, you can test this. Oh, I started a fire. How can I put out? Is my house gonna burn down? No. Okay, let's just jump in the water. Yeah, but how do I call, like, a fire department? Oh, my neighbor's coming over to help. That's nice. And you can see what these decisions, the consequences decisions have on other people also. For example, yeah, big W for the neighbor for sure. There's big debates on whether gentrification is good or bad for local populations. And I don't know what the answer to that is. And I have seen arguments on why it is bad. I have seen arguments for why it's okay. Oh my God, Sharky, you went there. But you could do something like play SimCity, for example, and then play with some of those decisions and see what actually happens. Now, how realistic any of that is going to be obviously varies. By the way, she's scared right now. She's a mermaid. She takes a bath. It is going to make her feel better. And we should probably fix this. Do not worry about grammar as long as it's like understandable. Like you can't say, oh, I typed in yes, but there was a grammar error. I meant to type in no. I feel like that's fair, right? No, that's not what I wanted to do. So we are going to cut off the RPG discussion right now. That's at 3:13. No, you do not. You only need to answer one of the questions. Unrelated, but I want to say this just because everyone keeps recommending Red Dead Redemption 2, and in fact this morning somebody recommended Red Dead Redemption 2, and then when I logged into my PlayStation I saw that it was on sale for 50% off, so I just bought Red Dead Redemption 2 just before class. Okay, so I need a stove. I will likely not play it for this class this semester because I don't have time. Because I don't have time to figure it out. No, you can use things for your paper that I use for class. It doesn't matter. But also, yeah, I'm not gonna. So in order to use a game for class, I have to play it a little bit first. I have to know where it's going so that I can know how to structure the lecture, and so I won't have time to do that for this semester. So we talked about this a little bit already, but let's see, she wants to chat with this person. What is, oh, she's starving. She's cooking, that's fine. So we talked about this a little bit already, but all three of the identities intersect and can lead to success or failure within the game. I could have Michaela could have all the skills in the world. In fact, she has gardening, so I should probably start a little garden. I think I'll do that when she's done eating. She could have a really high gardening skill, but if I, the player, forget to or don't go and practice that skill, her plants are still going to die, right? So there has to be a good synergy between my skills and her skills in order to be successful in the game. By the same token, you could be a super skilled player in a not Sims game. I'm saying that because Sims characters don't really exactly level. You know, if I go back and say replay Witcher 1, which I've done a couple times now, when I first start, there's going to be moves that I can't do because even though I know them, Geralt doesn't yet know them, right? So that skill difference goes both ways. And you saw that. I don't know if you noticed or not, but you saw that a little bit in week 2 because there was a couple of times I tried doing things that I was unable to do because I had not learned it in game yet. Okay, so this is a good question. Sleep deprived 82. I'm also sleep deprived right now, so I feel you. I'm not going to read out the whole thing because I can literally feel my voice going. But basically the idea is if you are forced into an identity, so these are all ones where you don't create your own character, right? You're talking about games where you play this character you're given. Especially if they force you to make decisions that you may disagree with, whether through violence or otherwise. So I think that, so we're going to talk a lot about this when we get to the week on empathy. But when you do these aren't necessarily directly a challenge to morals. What do I mean by that? I mean, if I'm playing Red Dead, which I haven't done yet, right? I told you I just bought it. And I'm forced to make a decision. And maybe I think either decision is immoral in the real world. If I'm playing, those two things aren't necessarily a problem, right? Like you saw me murdering people in Witcher 1 in week 2. I don't do that in real life. I promise you I do not do that in real life. So she doesn't have a television, but she wants to watch TV. But in playing in something like Red Dead 2, that's going to be a viewpoint that I would never get in the real world. I mean, aside from the fact that I'm not a dude, and I'm not like on the run, also, what year does that take place? I mean, it's 1800s, right? Like late 1800s. Like I don't have a time machine. I can't go back there. And being able to see the world through different points of view can have effect on your morals and values because you are literally learning, you are literally broadening your horizons, and that will affect how you see the world. It will affect how you value things, and will affect your morals. Again, it's not going to be a direct correlation of I did X in this game and therefore this. It's going to be more subtle than that. I lived abroad for a while, and there are certain things, certain values and morals that I have now that I know are an effect of having lived abroad. But I can't pinpoint one exact thing. I can't pinpoint like, oh, on this day while I was living in Taiwan, this thing happened, and that is why this moral has changed. Like I can't. the accumulative effect of spending 3 years in Taiwan changed the way I see the world. So much so that I can look back and know that it had an effect, because there are things that before I lived in Taiwan I thought were true and now I don't. Or now, I have slightly different values because of that experience. So I think that is a better way to look at something like Red Dead Redemption, The Last of Us, The Witcher. And sometimes it's obvious. In Witcher 2, I think it's 2, not 1, but I could be wrong. At one point you have to make a choice between helping the humans or helping the elves. And if you really look at the story, there's a pretty clear mapping of that with colonialism. So if you look at it in terms of colonialism, that's going to affect who you want to help. There's also a lot of racist undertones that, again, you can really have this one-to-one connection between the real world values and morals and what's happening in the game. So sometimes it's less subtle, but sometimes it's more subtle. And I see this because, in the elves versus human interaction, I made a decision to not help the colonial power. I chose to help the other group. But in playing and interacting with some of the humans, there was a clear sense of these characters either don't know history or they misunderstand history. I'm talking about the history in the game now, right? And because of these things they've been taught that are not true, they have these beliefs that are immoral, but it's based on false information. This is why debates on fake news are so incredibly important, because if you are making decisions based on fake news, you have no way to know that the decision you're making is immoral. Yeah, so good question. Separate question about first question. In some instances, couldn't the beginning creation be a projective identity, since the creator has the ability to incorporate their own values and desires into the building of their character? Yes, absolutely. And I think what I'm going to do, I'll give it about 4 minutes, is I'm going to stop this game. I'm going to load up the game that I'm playing for my personal self, and I'll show you an example of me having created a projective identity. Now, in this case, one of the reasons why I took a hard line to say it was virtual identity is because you all made some of the decisions for me. Right? And you all made some decisions that I wouldn't have, which I think is going to be real obvious when I show you this other Sims character. Oh, I thought there was going to be a fish to put in there. I guess not. And in that case, I'll show you. So the answer is yes, it can be. Doesn't the user also see the character as their own creation, since they have the choice to build it how they want? So yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there is a projective identity aspect to it, right? So I could see myself coming back to this character and having a lot of fun in a way that would be like role-playing a criminal. Doing things that I don't want to do in real life, that I have no desire to, that I don't aspire to. But sometimes it's fun to just be somebody else. And you can do that, and I can create that character, and it can be my own without being a projection of myself. Does that make sense? So for sometimes there's a clear answer. For example, Michaela is a virtual identity. Dr. Malone is a physical world identity. But projective identity depends on the person. Like, this could be projective identity. In this case, it's not. When I'm paying Geralt, it is, but it could not be. It depends. So I wanted to say one more thing before I switch over to the other character and we talk about that again. And we do want to connect this back to learning, and we're actually running out of time. So why is this important to learning? So G talks about page 55. If you can identify as a scientist in class, and also with skills, it can affect how well you do, right? So if you think, this is true, if you think you are good at math, you will do better in math. If you think you are bad at math, it gives you a mental block. And I have seen this in the real world. I saw this in my little sister, who did okay in math. She wasn't terrible, but she never saw herself as good at math. But she was really good in science. So she took like physics and chemistry, for example. I'm sure all of you took chemistry, maybe some of you took physics. Do you know how much math is involved? Like, you can't do physics and chemistry without being really good in math. But she had this mental block. So when she had to do math within chemistry and physics class, she did great. But then when she went to math class, she really struggled, right? Because she didn't see herself as a mathematician. Now, we will also talk about this when we talk about representation. It was, if you only ever see women being teachers, then your thought in your head is, women are teachers, men can't do that. If you only ever see male doctors, then in your head, men can be doctors. Men are good at medicine. Now, if you are a little kid and this is what you see, and you are a little boy or a little girl, even if maybe you want to be one or the other, you will think that you can't. Ooh, I should travel. With all these people who dislike me. Okay, so I think actually, and also because we're kind of getting near the class, I'm gonna have to wait for this to load. I'm gonna switch over to the other character, and then I'm gonna kind of show you an answer to that. You are gonna get a sudden personal look into my desires. But first of all, when it comes to the identity and the learning aspect, did that make sense? Are there any questions on that? Okay, while this is loading, I need to get a drink of water. I do hate how long these things take to load. I will be back in 30 seconds. All right. So, oh, that was the wrong button. We do not need to save this game. Why does my water taste funny? That's not good. It is not good. Oh. So I moved out of the city and now I have this country water and I run it through filters, but it still tastes like gross country water. All right. Ugh. Oh, no. Oh. Yeah, I have well water, and I'm just so. I think maybe at a certain point you get used to it. Maybe I'll get used to it. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know about this. I'm a little bit of a city girl. I mean, that makes sense. You're gonna like the water that you grew up with. I've heard a lot of people from the country, or maybe I shouldn't say that, just who grew up on well water, and then they say that city water just tastes like chemicals. Are there any class-related questions not about water while I go over here and load and show you some projective identity? So this is Sadie. And she's hungry. I'm gonna let her eat before I fix this thing. Oh, nobody drinks the tap water in Taiwan. Nobody. So I made her so the home is kind of country, right? You have this aesthetic, which is very different than the last thing we were in. Fireplace, because I think fireplaces are the absolute best. I value being handy. So I'm going to have her fix this machine. And she has a pretty high handiness skill. So if you look here, cooking is 10. I love cooking. I think it's important to be able to feed yourself. Fishing, not that I particularly like fishing in the real world, but I like the idea of being self-sufficient. So that's why she fishes. Handiness, see, is a level 6. Because again, I have this value of self-sufficiency. So I want to be able to fix things myself. I want to be able to not have to rely on constantly taking care, or having to pay somebody to take care of my stuff. She has a modest home, it's 1 floor, but plenty of space to relax and have a separate office, which is very important to me to have work-life balance, and a small bedroom. Going along with the self-sufficiency, we have a garden here, and most of this is edible things. These aren't flowers, right? So I have the pumpkin, I have grapes, I have, what is this? Blah, blah, blah. Apples, I think this is plantain, chocoberry, which is not real, but fine. Taro, I love taro. Taro is one of my favorite things to eat. I learned to love it in Taiwan. And I keep animals. So I have chickens. This one's named Manny. I get eggs. Now what you're looking at here is really a projection of skills that I wish I had. I mentioned earlier, I keep trying to have plants and I keep killing them, but I want them. I love the idea of being able to go out to my garden, cook a meal, and be like, I grew this. We're gonna clean this up. You know, I love eggs. I love the idea of just being able to go out back, grab some eggs out of the coop, and make breakfast. Oh, there's no one living there yet. She also has a fairly huge lot that she lives on. Again, with the projective identity, I would love to have a big lot, a big yard, some animals, a garden. I could not take care of this property in the real world. But why is this projective? It is projective because even in the real world, I value self-sufficiency. I value being as eco-friendly as possible. And so I created a better version of myself. So this is a very strong projective identity. Now also, because I bought the country pack, there are yeah, so a lot of times that's what it is. It's aspirations of your real world identity. Not necessarily. So in her being handy, in the real world, I am also actually very handy. That's just a mapping of me to this character, and I wouldn't really call it an aspiration. I fix all my stuff here. Not everything. There are times I have to hire. I'm literally building a motorcycle right now. So definitely above average handiness. So it's not all aspirational. Some of it is definitely aspirational, like the gardening and the animals. But some of it is just, this is me. I like this about me. And so I'm also putting it in the character. And some of it is about values that are, maybe you could call them aspirational, maybe you could call them like partially aspirational, partially just me. So, I didn't even realize I am a legendary country caretaker. And one of the ways you reach that level is you do favors for people in town. So if we travel real quick to the local pub, oh, hold on. Before we travel, we are going to go pet Manny because Manny is about to die. And I don't believe in letting people die alone. We're going to smother Manny with love. So we're not going to have time, but if I had had time to go to the pub, what I would have shown you is that you can click on other people in the neighborhood. Again, this is because of this expansion pack, and do favors for them. And then you gain your reputation for being a good caretaker. And I feel like that's one of those ones where it's sort of me, it's sort of aspirational. And I say that because I do that because it aligns with my values. I also do that in the real world. But I also have my own needs and a full-time job. So sometimes when people ask me for things, like I just can't, right? And so the fact that she always comes through, the fact that she does it in the first place is just me. The fact that she always comes through is aspirational. She's able to do that because she has no job. Rather than have her have a job, like her career is to just help around the neighborhood. She survives by growing her own food. And then because she does favors for people, a lot of times they will give her gifts, like pies or turkeys or whatever. And then that's how she survives. I believe this house is also off the grid, so there's no electric bill, and you can choose appropriate appliances to be that way. And again, that's an aspirational thing of environmentalism. But I created her from the get-go to be this projective identity, to have this very serene, calm life that is in line with my values, and that honestly I will never have, because this is the real world. And in the real world, I would die. I would starve to death is the problem. I don't have the skills to live like this. So yeah, it is 3:46, so we are 1 minute past the end of class. Thank you for everyone who hung out. And next week next week I will stream. There's no lecture credit. The topic is journaling. So I'm going to stream something, I don't remember what, but use that like a kind of like office hours, or if you have questions. So if you have questions about your game, about your proposal, about your paper, about journaling, you can ask in real time and I will answer. Whatever game I play will be something just for fun. It will not be topical to class, but I will still play something. In part because if nobody shows up, I don't want to be bored. I don't want to just sit here. So that is next week, but there's no credit, so it is optional. So if I don't see you next week, I will see you in 2 weeks. Good night.